Hello and welcome to All Stats Aren't We, a podcast in which Leeds fans cast their combined eye over goings-on at Elland Road, giving scrutiny to the underlying statistics and tactical footings at work at Leeds United. I'm Tom Hosty Cundell, the bullet header of the podcast, powerful and unstoppable. And I'm joined today by the outside of the box goal of the podcast, Adam Elliott, also powerful and unstoppable. And finally, I'm joined by the tapping goal from close range of the podcast, just like this man. It wasn't pretty, but it got the job done. It's Dan Holdsworth. I didn't write down. That's actually the first time I've read that. Dan, how are you? How are you? Adam didn't.
Well, I was all right until I heard that. That's just rude.
That's Martin's doing.
So it's Martin's doing. I'm very good considering last night's performance. I'm like all football fans, I'm high as a kite now, and we're going to come like 10th or something.
Yeah, I mean that's just Leeds. That's just Leeds United fans. Yeah. We're getting Europe, surely. I'm good.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm good. Cheers. It's my birthday in a couple of days, and I'm going away tomorrow. Before we record, after we record, basically. So yeah, I'm in good spirits. And I've eaten, so that's good. I had a long day at work, and I was a bit down, and so I haven't rewatched the Chelsea game because I thought I've got the option of rewatching it or eating. I'm probably going to be miserable if I don't eat on the podcast. So I will make sure I've eaten. So I've just had some Nando's chicken and rice, which is kind of a go-to. Adam, what about yourself? How are you?
I'm doing very well. I like you, have had a drink, even though you haven't announced that yet on the podcast. But we are both drinking. I've had a glass of wine. The reason for that is because I made a spaghetti bolognese, and I put a bit of wine in that because it's nicer. So it's genuinely one of the best bolognese I've ever made. So happy days. And Leeds won, which means Daniel Farke's staying. I don't know how I feel about that. But that might just be for the time being. And we'll get into that. But otherwise, good. Thank you for asking. And happy birthday early.
Oh, thank you. Dan, what did you have to eat?
I had a chicken pie and some roast potatoes and peas, and it was a damn tasty chicken pie indeed, so that was good. It was a bought one. I didn't make it myself. It was lazy, but it was tasty, so that's cool.
It's always good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're just a reminder for everyone, we are on YouTube. We didn't get the Chelsea preview out on YouTube, unfortunately. The video editors were both quite busy. I am one of those. But if you do prefer to listen or watch on YouTube, head over to All Stats Aren't We on there, and you can watch there. And obviously, like and subscribe, and also on Spotify and on our Patreon. If you want some extra content when we get it out, you can head over to patreon.com/ASAW Patreon. You can tell that I've been away. I'm a little bit rusty. I apologise, but this is a double header podcast. The first part, we will be discussing the 3-1 win over Chelsea, and the second half, we will then be previewing the Liverpool game, where I will also jump off for the preview. As I said, I have a flight to catch tomorrow. I haven't packed.
So, feels like you shouldn't have signed up for this, but I'm glad you're here.
And I have to make sure I have the right passport because your man has too. So yeah. Anyway, we'll get on.
Irish. He keeps going on about it. Oh dear.
That's what the Amen stands for. Anyway, we will get on with the game summary of last night's 3-1 victory over Chelsea at Elland Road. Leeds did not opt for their usual 4-3-3. But instead went with a 3-5-2 shape, with Chelsea set up in a 4-2-3-1 under Enzo Maresca. Leeds started the stronger of the sides, putting balls into the box from corners and long throws, as well as in open play, with Anton Stack's corner headed home by Yacobiol on 6 minutes. Although Chelsea were able to get a foothold and dominate the ball, this seldom broke into Leeds' box for the remainder of the half, with Leeds keeping their opposition at arm's length and happy to hit direct passes into their two centre-forwards. Leeds continued to have the better of the chances as well, with Pascal Struijk going close from another Stack corner. However, they went 2 goals in front at the break from an Altanaka scorcher, having turned the ball over in their final third on the left flank, with Jadon Bogle eventually finding the Japanese international, who had taken warning shots from similar positions already. The second 45 began in much the same manner, with Leeds putting their visitors under pressure early on and Lucas Mecha going close from another Stack delivery. However, Chelsea eventually pegged Leeds back to make the score 2-1 in 50 minutes, having made 2 half-time substitutions. Despite that, Leeds remained in the same game plan and shape and were rewarded through Nemetcha's goal. However, it was ruled out for offside. Leeds continued to have the better openings by utilising the physicality of their front two and midfield, eventually sealing the points through a Dominic Calvert-Lewin after many errors for Chelsea in their own third. It gave Leeds their third maximum 3 points at Elland Road and fourth of the season for Daniel Farke. So, the interrogation. Let's start with the good stuff straight away. This was an impressive win. How do we feel that we achieved this win, Adam?
By setting up in the right way. It's quite a simple one. I honestly think this might be one of the most easy reviews of the season, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah,
we've been, not to rub our own backs, but for a while now, this podcast has been saying we need to play more direct, whatever the shape might be. It could be in a 4-3-3, could be in a 3-5-2, could be in a 4-2-3-1, whatever it is. We just needed to play more directly. And again, directness has kind of become this thing of like, everyone's talking about the 3-5-2 shape and how we have to stick to that. But for me, it's more about the game plan rather than the actual like structure. Obviously, the 3-5-2 shape does suit us, and it did suit us in this game. I think Chelsea were partly caught cold by that. I don't think they expected it. We didn't expect it. I think most of us thought we were sticking with the 4, and we didn't. But we also, it wasn't just that. It was the fact that we did play more like we did in the second half against Man City. So we continued to put balls into Calvert-Lewin's chest. He won 6 of his 9 aerials. He won 4 out of 5 ground duels, I think it was, although I can't remember. Something like that. And you know, the most headers of any player in the match for us, he won. So it was a pretty obvious game plan against centre-backs for Chelsea who, not the best. Adebayo is a tall boy, but he is really poor in the air. He's got one of these weird abilities. Joel Peru has it. Dan Burn has it a little bit, where they like seem to shrink as they jump, probably because they're so tall that they don't feel like they need to jump properly. And because of that, we were able to win a lot of balls in that area, and we had the midfield set up right. So instead of having, in previous matches, we've complained about the build-up shape, having players like Ampadu and Stack dropping deep to help the centre-backs with the full-backs pushed up, and it made no sense because you basically had a lot of right-footed players when BL was playing centre-back. And in build-up, that just didn't help. And then you didn't have Goodmanson aiding things. Instead, the midfielders were nowhere near the build-up phase a lot of the time. They were up there, at least a couple of them, closer to Calvert-Lewin, so that if he won anything or Metcha won anything, they were able to scoop up. And Chelsea couldn't deal with it. They couldn't deal with our physicality in that area. They couldn't deal with it in midfield. If you go through our team, the smallest player was Jane Bogle at 5'10". In fact, I think there were only 3 players below 6 foot in the entire lineup for Leeds, most of them quite considerably above that. And like from corners and set pieces, that caused chaos. So, you know, even the long throws from Ampadu. But in general play, it just meant that we were able to battle them. Enzo Fernandez is like a pretty kind of dogged player. He gets stuck in, he works his socks off really, like he's a bit too aggressive, I think some might say. But he just wasn't anywhere near us. Like a lot of those 50-50 balls in those areas we were able to win. So it meant that we were able to keep possession and not possession, sorry, but keep getting forward and creating chances. And 29% of the ball, but nearly 3 expected goals generated. Well, they had 71%, 0.96 expected goals. It tells its own story, doesn't it?
I'd probably say we only really generated like 2.03 XG, just because.
I think the Calvert-Lewin chance is actually 0.99.
Yeah, exactly. Like, does that one count as? I guess it comes from like the game plan of we pressed really well, right, and we pressed high. Okafor came in and did his lazy pressing of 4 players in the space of 5 seconds and won the ball back. But he's lazy and doesn't work. Dan, have you got anything sort of like this? I guess sort of the worry for me with this, if I was to be slightly negative, and I guess there's been a little bit that's come out with the press conference today, which you guys might get onto, but this shape does suit the profiles that we've got, which is something we've discussed. But Metcha and Calvert-Lewin might have knocks, and they're like the only 2 strikers that we've got that really fit this profile. So that 11's good, but then the backup for playing this same sort of style with this structure isn't. Is that a worry?
That is a worry. I mean, Adam made the point that the key thing is the playing direct, the style rather than the formation. So I just think having either of the players that we can play direct to out is the worry. That's the key thing. I guess there are some shapes that you can mitigate that a little bit. We could probably probably go back to a front three or something if we don't have Calvert-Lewin on Lemaitre. But it's just an absolute worry if either of those two are fit. So I'm hoping at least one of them is fit, so we can at least start one of them and play direct in the next game. So, yeah.
Yep. And so we've discussed our XG, but not just us going direct. What also we did, we limited Chelsea very well throughout the game in total. They put up 0.96 XG, which is their fourth lowest amount. Adam, I'll come to you again on this one. How did we achieve this?
We had pretty good shape in most areas. That the only time I felt like we were caused problems was Garnacho's direct dribbling on some tired Jadon Bogle legs. I think one of the things, and it ties in with what Dan was saying about the worries about kind of the intensity and some players struggling, with injury now ahead of the game this weekend against Liverpool. But that is a bit of a concern where I'm not sure the players are going to be able to do this kind of thing all out in the Premier League for 90 minutes. And maybe we did see some signs in the second half of some of those tired legs, like both fullbacks on the goal for Chelsea. Goodmanson kind of switches off a bit, like he does look at the player, and then he just completely switches off after that. I don't know why he didn't go and look for him again over his other shoulder or something, but Bogle as well diving in. But for the most part, they were both excellent. I can't really fault them, and especially in the first half, we were right at it. The back five was a really solid structure. It really suits the three in the middle. I think they complement each other's profiles very well. I think Biol, a lot of our fans were sceptical about that signing after seeing him, 4 times in a back four as a left centre-back. When he was asked to progress the ball, he wasn't here. He was told to, you can hoof it if you need to. And he was doing so. And then when we had to defend, it was just a good shape for him. I think we've said for a while now, especially Rodon and Biol have got a lot of experience of playing in a back three. Stroud not as much, but he probably very, very much suits that left centre-back role and was able to kind of push out when needed as well in possession. But out of possession, it just gave you that solid foundation with 3 midfielders as well. So you've kind of got 8 defensive players and then a front 2 who are more than happy to be scrappy and to battle for balls. So Chelsea just didn't have a lot of space to work. Their most creative players kind of came in towards the box, and they saw that they were almost doubled upon in those wide areas because you had a left back and a left centre back. You had a right back and a right centre back, and there were still spare men in the middle for us. So, and then Stack and Ampadu were doing their jobs really well. I haven't got the numbers to hand on their amount of tackles and duels won, but they must have been staggering amount this in this game. Looked like Ampadu had a point to prove, for example, and Stack got through a lot of work himself too. So I think everyone did their jobs. I think the shape naturally kind of lends itself to some teams towards the bottom having to soak up pressure. And, we had a lot of profiles that suit it as well. So it was just really easy, to be honest, to kind of just sit in and knock it long when we had to. And Chelsea just weren't able to generate all that much other than the goal they scored. So, yeah, I don't really have
looking for you, I have those stats at hand.
Nice.
So, Pascal only had 1 aerial duel, but he won it. Biol won 33% of his duels, but I'll get onto something else for him as well in a second. And Joe Rodon also only won 33%, losing to winning 1. But defensive action-wise, clearances, Joe Rodon made 6 clearances. Biol made 9. Pascal Struijk made 3. Ampadu made 6. Goodmanson made 4, and Jadon Bogle, he only made 1. But they're high numbers, right? I mean, the bit that I thought from the game with regards to Biol was he wasn't in duels, but he was in space and clearing the ball with getting it out with his head. He was kind of there, just sweeping up with his head every cross that came in, just about.
Ball magnet.
Is kind of something.
It was an absolute ball magnet yesterday. Yeah. It was always a spare man I found. Watching the game live, he was always just, Struijk and Rodon would take care of the opposition players, and he would just pop up and go to the ball, and it just worked a treat, really, having that spare man.
And just one other thing, sorry, it was a complete physical mismatch. I know Delap's kind of a big burly striker in some ways, but he's still quite young and raw. João Pedro, I don't even remember him doing much taller than that one Larry moment early on against Perry. So I think physically we just had the beating of a lot of those players in those areas, and they just didn't like it. Yeah. They're better footballers than our players, but they're not better physically, and that was what mattered and should matter going forward.
Yeah, they definitely struggled when even we had the ball and it was physical, and you'd see Tanaka turning out and Ampadu turning out quite a bit just from being able to hold them off and get the turn rather than it being technical, beating them that way. And yeah, I think our setup was really good. Part of like the way that we set up of, we pressed and we were quite aggressive in that midfield whenever it came into the central areas. I felt we kind of let them have it down the sides, and then we're quite aggressive centrally, and that hindered them. Sorry to interrupt. Just a quick one. If you're enjoying the video, be sure to like and subscribe to help us keep the content coming. And if you want even more, you can support us over on patreon.com/ASAW Patreon. You'll get bonus podcasts, exclusive articles, and access to our Discord community, all while helping us make more of the content you love. Thanks. Now let's get back to it. There's a couple of questions on Chelsea's lineup. So I'll ask Alfie's and then I'll move on to Wiggy's comment with it. So yeah. Alfie in the Discord said, did Chelsea's lineup suggest that they set up to defend against the front three rather than against the two big boys up front? And then Wiggy kind of says, when he saw their lineup, having listened to the preview pod, he couldn't believe that Maresca had picked the players the guest said weren't very good. Adam, I know you've got opinions on this, probably similar to what I've done, but yeah, what do you think that that's how they set up for Chelsea? Or do you think it was something that might have even been forced due to kind of what your opinion on what Wiggy said as well?
I think Chelsea are a club that are fighting on a lot of different fronts with a squad that probably should be better and deeper than it is, considering how much money's been spent on it. I don't think all of their squad players are as good as their starters. They're not altogether surprising that there was a bit of a drop-off in that sense, but they're in the Champions League. They're in the next round of the League Cup, which is the quarterfinals. And so they're probably having to rotate. Like he said about Reece James after that Arsenal game, which was probably very physically taxing with 10 men, and they were pressing really aggressively in that game with 10 men and just to keep Arsenal out. It's not that surprising that someone like James had to come out, and then other players probably were a bit more jaded than we were. We had that extra day's rest and we didn't have to play a team. We had to play Man City, but we didn't have to play 10 men. So I think that's part of it, definitely. And then, yeah, the kind of players that came in nowhere near the level of some of the starters. Tosin, he's quite a nice ball player. He should be better than he is physically for his size. Not the best defender, a bit of a bozo in certain moments. But yeah, just didn't like a lot of their players out there, and that helped for sure. John's made this point on Twitter, like we've done it against a slightly weird Man City at the moment, and then obviously Chelsea in the state they're in currently, and with that team yesterday. Not altogether surprising that we were able to. Can we do it against Liverpool on Saturday? Can we follow it up in a game like that? Can we then do it against Arsenal and they come around again at another point if we decide to play this kind of way? We'll see. I'm not 100% sure. And again, like I'm a bit worried about the intensity of how we're playing, and we're doing this in December, which is the busiest period of the season as well. So there is a bit of that that's in the back of my mind. And as for Alfie's question, like I think they probably were set up thinking we were going to be a back four. So there's that like initial first 5-10 minutes, them having to figure that out and then get that across to the players. But we caught them cold in that period, didn't we? Because we started so well, we were on top, generated a lot of chances from balls into the box, and won that corner and scored. So even then, before they'd even had a chance to even think about sorting themselves out, we were already a goal ahead. So yeah, I genuinely think that Maresca probably thought that we were going to play a back four and with just one striker, but instead we did the two.
Yeah, I agree with exactly what you said there. Dan, we've discussed the XG. We put quite a lot of XG, and it was actually our second most XG this season. The only match that we actually put up more XG was against Burnley, but that could easily have been down to the game state of that because we were behind. So what do you think? Do you think that was the biggest what do you think is the biggest contributing factor to the fact that we've produced our highest XG this season in last night's game?
I mean, one of our chances, the Calvert-Lewin goal was basically a 1xG, wasn't it? Or it was 0.98 or something. So it kind of like eats into a lot of it. But even so, it was still, outside of that, we still put up almost 2xG, I think, which is still pretty good against a team like Chelsea. I think it was just a good tactical ploy. I think Calvert-Lewin was an absolute handful. I think our pressing was really good. I just think, that kind of direct play is just an effective way of counter-pressing, and direct play is just a really effective way for us of generating chances. And I think we kind of created enough chaos in this game through that direct play, through our physicality, through good set pieces that we generated a good amount of XG. And I just think that's got to be the play, hasn't it, going forward? I think that's going to be a fairly reliable way of generating chances. Even when we don't play great, I think it's still a useful way of playing, because you can create stuff, from poor performances. You can still generate chaos and chances, can't you? So it was just one of those games we played well and we created chaos and got set pieces. So
the out of possession. So I just want to add one more point on, because Martin will shoot me if I don't. He mentioned how it looked a bit similar to when we played Leicester in the Championship a couple of seasons back with Enzo Maresca in charge then, where pretty patient in build-up, aren't they, Chelsea? And his Leicester team especially were quite passive. And we, in that first game in particular, less so the second one, but the one where we won at the King Power, we were pressing them really aggressively in the final third, but we were very quickly dropping off. It was almost like a hybrid press, because we'd go man-to-man in the final third, but we'd quickly drop off into quite a compact mid-block. And in this game, that was very evident. But the good thing was that even when we had to go then back to front and we wanted to get players forward quickly, with the ball quickly, the midfielders were still well positioned for counter-pressing moments. So it was just perfect. Like the midfield in particular just got this one spot on in terms of what they're doing out of possession, what they're doing in possession. And it just meant that we were kind of all over them, even though we only had 29% of the ball.
One thing on the pressing... I was going to say Calvert-Lewin and Nemecha were pretty important at like funneling Chelsea where we wanted to funnel them. Yeah. So those two worked really hard. They're like obviously like a really good screen, and at times they funneled them wide, and at times they went wide and funneled them centrally. So they were kind of really good at kind of shepherding Chelsea where they wanted, and then we could just launch that trap in midfield. Yeah. So it was a good pressing performance. Yeah, it was a good pressing performance from those two for the game as well. So it's worth shouting that out.
Yeah, and to add to what you were kind of saying there, Adam, with regards to where the midfielders could be, like if the ball was further up the pitch, the back three and back five kind of lent to that a little, because it meant that they had a bit more license to get a bit further forward and didn't have as much worry if the ball came through them. But yeah, I just felt like those three midfielders that we had, we've discussed it before, Tanaka was good at it in the Championship. There was maybe some worries that the physicality wouldn't be as good, but they're three very good midfielders to snap onto second balls. So yeah, like even Longstaff comes back in, that's one of his things that he's good as well, winning the second ball high up. And so that's why this kind of direct play, I think, does work for us that way. But it wasn't all perfect, was it? We did concede, and something which has been picked up in the Discord, Jamie asked, why do we keep conceding just after half time? So that has happened quite a bit recently. Adam, why are we?
Yeah, I don't fully have an answer for this. To be honest, this is probably one that stumped me a bit. I don't really know. It's probably more the opposition, isn't it? It's probably them with a kick up the backside, because obviously in first halves now, we went over this in the last pod, myself and Martin, we were 9 goals and 10 conceded in first halves, which is way better than our second half record. And now it's 11 goals scored and 10 conceded. So we've clearly started games far better than we've ended them. The data was that we concede more late in games, like so in the last sort of 15 minutes, more so than in the first 15. But it does feel like we've conceded a lot not long after half time. But this was a weird one, and this is why I don't know about this game, because we actually started really well in that first 3 minutes against Chelsea. We had another decent chance. Stack whipped the ball in from the right, and both Calvert-Lewin and Mecha went for it. Calvert-Lewin missed it, Mecha got it, and their goalkeeper had to make a save, Robert Sanchez. But then they had their attack after that. I honestly think Garnacho was pretty good here. I don't particularly love him as a player, but like his dribbling is really, really excellent. And he caused a lot of problems. So did Banner Gittins. Like, I just think that matchup for the fullback wasn't maybe the best. And even though Bogle had a good first half, he did sort of tail off a bit defensively in the second, and they got some more joy down that side. So I don't really know the answer. Sorry, Jamie, but I do feel what you're saying. I do understand. So I wonder if Dan has a better answer than I do.
I wonder if Fark often sets us up defensively quite well, doesn't he, in games? But then managers often adapt quite well. So I just assume it's managers coming out and adapting, and we're just a bit slow to sort of preempt that adaptation, should I say? So I wonder if it's just we're just a little bit slow to respond to opposition responses, and we've just been caught out a few times, and that's it really.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing else for me to add on that one. We've got a lot now on the formation. We've already kind of touched on formation a little bit. So I can't even remember. Is it Zach who's Anton Shadak in the the Discord? Yeah. So he's asked if this level of directness, is there any reason that it shouldn't be the blueprint for every match for the rest of the season? Would the plan need altering for any type of opponent? Other question, Josie from Blue Sky. As long as are we Farker in now? As long as he promises to keep us using a more direct style. Will has asked, assuming that most games we have 3 central midfielders, which we have just about in every game, is tonight the best way to set up that central midfield with regards to the blended profiles? That's actually a slightly different one now that I've read it fully and understood it once I read it out loud. So we'll go with the blend of Josie and Zach's of, is there any reason why we shouldn't keep this? And do we think Farker will keep this? That I guess that's the questions there of why I'm asking them together. Dan?
I think he won't keep to it and he won't keep to the style. I think that the important thing is that we keep playing direct. That's the key thing. We've said it already in this podcast, said it before. I think the 3-5-2 does suit the squad we've got and the players we've got, particularly the back three. I really like that back three with Beale in the middle of it. I think that really works nicely. So I think there's a great argument for keeping the back three. Doesn't necessarily have to be a 3-5-2. We could play 3-4-3 and get more attackers in some games. It might be that we go to a 3-4-3 to keep the back three, but get our front three going again, which might be a good thing in terms of attacking numbers and creativity. So that might be a compromise between what Fark wants to do and this 3-5-2 system. So the key thing is playing direct and playing into our squad strengths, isn't it? Playing into the profile strengths, playing into Calvert-Lewin and playing to Metcha. Letting the midfielders get up and support that forward line and pick up the second balls. That's a key thing as well. I think when we're playing the 4-3-3 and Fark's had us trying to build up, we had midfielders dropping out all the time to pick the ball up, and therefore we weren't able to then get up and support the forwards, for sort of second balls and stuff. So I think the key is having a back three means we don't have midfielders dropping in. They're further up the field. They're there closest to the forwards when they get the ball to support it. That's the key thing. You can still play 4-3-3 and not have your midfielders dropping out. You can have them pushing up and supporting. So it's not impossible that we play direct 4-3-3. It just Fark seems to not potentially want to do that. So, I'm not against the 3-5-2 becoming our base formation for the rest of the season, or maybe our most common formation. I think it does work. I think it does suit us, but I wouldn't want Fark to be stuck on it, because I think there will be situations where we want a front three. There will be situations where we need more players further forward. So maybe we do have a back four in some games, and we don't feel the threat. Don't feel that we need to have a back three. There could be scenarios like that. So I don't want Fark to be wedded to it. I want him to do horses for courses. But yeah, I think it's useful, and I think it'll work for us quite a bit. Is my answer.
Adam?
So, yeah, this is the main discussion point for me that I wanted to talk about. So just bear with me. Directness has been the thing that I've been thinking about most today, because I'm a very boring man. So this is all I've had to think about. But yeah, I think people are getting a bit caught up in 3-5-2 talk, and I think a bit lost in it. I think people are carried away with the fact that we did it and it's worked for 1.5 games now. And that's it. It's not that. It's actually the game plan rather than the shape. So Zach's actual full question says, is there any reason this formation / level of directness shouldn't be the blueprint? And I think it's more to do with the latter there, is the level of directness. Now, that can take different forms. So it doesn't have to be you always go to a front two and you go direct to them. It could be a 1, it could be a 2. It also doesn't mean you have to go to the number 9. We saw against Man City in the first half when we were in a 4-3-3 shape, one of our best attacking moments in that half was Ampadu playing a direct ball over the top of Man City's defence, which Dan James ran onto, and he didn't create anything from it, but the ball ended up falling to Metcha and he got a shot away. So it can be to a winger. And if we get if we want to do that, you want players like Okafor on the pitch, perhaps. I know he likes the ball to feet quite a bit to actually run at his fullback, but he'll also surely be happy to run in behind because he's got the speed to do it. And then when James is back, he's the same. Gnonto's not slow, so you've got options there that can do that. So for me, it's what Dan said. It's like you might want to do a 3-5-2 sometimes, and that might be our main shape going forward, or it should be. I guess people are asking whether he will do that, Farke. I'm not sure that he will. I think there's a very good chance he might do it against Liverpool and maybe reverts back to type in home games against weaker teams. Maybe in away games he continues to do it. I'm not sure yet. We'll probably know more in the next few games. But I think, sometimes it should be a 3-5-2. Sometimes it should be a 3-4-3, so you can get 3 forwards on the pitch at once, if that's 2 wide forwards and a striker. And other times, it can go back to a 4-3-3, but you then just need other ways to do it. So directness to me isn't just, go towards Calvert-Lewin or Mecha or both. It can be a winger, or even another way is, and we haven't really done this season, but why are we not sort of baiting a team in to one of our channels, like let's say our left channel with Goodmanson? He then plays the ball back to Straug and he switches it out quickly to the other side, and we then suddenly have more space to work the right flank. Don't know why we've not done that either. So there's different ways to be direct. But the problem we've had this season on this podcast is we've been saying that the build-up shape has just been all wrong, and we've just been basically knocking it around quite a few players that don't really suit it. The opposition are often catching us out, like Brighton did, and causing problems. Or we've had midfielders, like Dan said, too deep. It just doesn't work. So, for me, there are different ways to be direct, but that is the main thing that has to say now. I don't care if Farke doesn't like having 29% possession. I think some people said it on Twitter, like, wouldn't be surprised if that's the lowest amount he's had as a Leeds manager. I've not checked that, but I'm almost certain that it will be. I can't imagine there's a game where it's been that low. And he likes control. We know this. He's a manager that really wants to be like the one in control of the game, the protagonist of the game, essentially. But I think we need to just suck it up and suck up our pride and just go, you know what? We are what we are. The squad's been built in a certain way. These profiles suit this. We need to play either 3-5-2, 3-4-3, or 4-2-3, but in a direct fashion where we get bodies around the forward, whether that's the 2 wingers or the midfielders quickly, and we counter-press in those moments. And when we do it, it looks effective like it did here. Obviously, some teams are going to get a bit more kind of attuned to it over time, but I still think, as Dan said, like you can never not create stuff from going direct. Like you're always going to have that, whichever way you do it, you're always going to get, because you're getting the ball into the final third quickly. And so even if it's not perfect, it's still you're going to have moments where midfielders are able to snap in and get onto their second balls, and suddenly we can create stuff. So that's why I've been thinking about that a lot, and that's why I don't think people should be so caught up in the 3-5-2 stuff. But I do agree that it should be viable for the squad that we've got, the back 3, even the wing backs, but we don't have a lot of options there. Justin probably could do a job. Would you want Sam Byron playing wing back?
We've got Sebastian Bornell playing right wing back. What are you on about?
Jesus. I mean, okay, you've got Jack Harrison that could probably do a job at left wing back for sure. Dan James could probably do a job at right wing back if he played, if we needed him to, but I still don't think the profiles are great there, so it means you might not want to do it all the time because of that as well.
Yeah, I think the same for the forwards. For if we're playing 3-5-2, we mentioned it earlier. I think the same with the depth of the forwards.
Because I don't really want Joel Piroux playing too often. But
as a direct option, but also like a couple of things that you kind of touched on in there. One of them's just I've just lost it now because we ended up moving into depth. You did get quite Jesse Marshy also, is what I felt like you were talking there. When you talk about chaos and getting the ball forward quick, that was very much Jesse Marsh's kind of ideas, but you've got to get the system right and realise where there's weaknesses to it as well. Being direct isn't always lumping it up to the big man. Sometimes it's, using Goodmanson to drive the ball forward at feet. When he does that, that's being direct. That is still being direct. It's not. And I think I remember now, you spoke about Farke wanting control. Does nobody think that we controlled yesterday's game just because we only had 28 position? Like, it's control of the ball is what he wants, but I felt like we did control the game and we were more than in charge yesterday. So I think it's getting that understanding and understanding that. So
we controlled the game with our defensive shape yesterday. I felt that's what we controlled the game with. That
And
block was really
defensive system.
effective.
Yeah.
I think the point I was making is more that that's not Daniel Farke's style.
No,
He doesn't
I agree.
like that.
I agree. Yeah,
I agree with you
Yeah.
guys. Like the word control there is, we're meaning controlled the game, but he prefers to control the ball.
He's talking about controlling the ball. Yeah, because he thinks
Yeah.
that's having more control of the narrative of the game, but it's not necessarily.
Anyone that watched that was a neutral would say that Leeds were the better team and deserved to win.
100%.
We controlled the game. Yeah.
So, on to the question which I got slightly confused earlier. Will asked, assuming that most games we will play 3 central midfielders, is tonight the best way to set up? So, the reason why I put it in the formation one is because I thought that meant he was on about with 3 defenders behind them. But then he spoke about blend of profiles and what it gives you. So, what he's talking about is Tanaka, Stack, and Ampadu, the blend of 3 midfielders that gives us the best options. Adam?
I think so. I mean, I'm going to be a big Tanaka fan till the day I die because I think he's great. And so I like him playing games and I like watching him. Is there a place for Sean Longstaff? As you said earlier, yes, because his intensity off the ball and his kind of ball winning means he's going to be really good in mopping up. But it's nice to have someone with a bit more guile. When we had Ampadu, Longstaff and Stack, the best player there on the ball is probably Stack. Whereas when you've got Tanaka, he just suddenly becomes the second best player on the ball. And Tanaka's there kind of knitting things together a bit nicer. So when you do have those moments where you want to win the ball back from counter-pressing moments high up the pitch, you then want someone who can actually like pick passes out. I think we've noticed Stack sometimes when he gets into the final third in earlier games this season, picking the wrong pass or overdoing the pass or not timing it quite right. I think Tanaka has a better feel for those things. So I'm not saying he has to play every time, but it would be nice to have him as an option more. And in this run, it is a good period now for him to kind of nail his position in the team. The other 2 feel more nailed on. That said, like, I think there will be some games where Ampadu, Stack and Longstaff probably is better, but it's not going to be every type of game. And Tanaka yesterday was a real live wire in terms of shots. I think he had 4 in the game, which is pretty good for a midfielder that isn't really renowned for scoring. And finally, he had his shooting boots on to score. But yeah, I did like it, and I did like the blend of it. The worry I have, and maybe this is a persistent theme we're talking about now because we've already mentioned it for the strikers, we've mentioned it for the wing backs. We just don't have a lot of depth there while Longstaff's out. So if we're playing 3 and there's an injury, suddenly Ilya Guerrero's playing, and I mean,
I don't think he's been terrible recently.
He's not all right. He's been okay,
he's been all right.
But I don't like him very much.
I've even seen him do some right-footed passes.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, if it's then him, in the team, and that means that we've got 2 injuries in midfield, doesn't it? So it means that we're really, really stretched at that point. In which case, do you do what Dan said and go 3-4-3? Because you need to have at least one midfielder on the bench who would play in midfield if it was, Tanaka was out and Longstaff was out. I don't know who would make the bench then at that point to be an option for that position.
The other best player that we've got, Brendan Aronson, which is who it would probably be as well. Actually, to be fair, that is a genuine suggestion of that. We've said before we see him as maybe being more of an 8 than an attacking 8. Than
unfortunately, you've ruined my night though. So with that, I'll see you all later.
I suppose it'd be good in counter-pressing situations, wouldn't it? That's what it's good for.
Yeah.
And picking the ball up, and he carries it well. He turns out of trouble and carries it well. So,
and then carries it too far after he's carried it well. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If you could just teach him just to release it 10 meters earlier.
I also don't mind Gurev when we're winning because he's just kind of stodge things up, clog up the middle, and he's pretty good at that. So that's fine. It's just that if we were behind. Yeah,
he's pretty conscientious guy, Grib, and he picks good defensive positions up, doesn't he? He knows the game, he reads it pretty well, I think. He's just physically lacking, isn't he, basically?
Yeah, and I'm going to ask Paul's question first, just quickly get onto it before we move on to man of the matches and I guess top 3 performers that we'll try glaze over quickly so that we can move on to the second part. But Paul has asked, our editor Paul, he doesn't edit the videos, he edits the podcasts just so you don't blame him. For the No Chelsea video, blame me. Did Biol just need to be in a back 3 to look good, or is there more to it than that? Dan, what's your opinion?
I think the back three does suit him, and him being the main middle guy in the back three did suit him yesterday. And I wonder if it's the better way for him to sort of, properly introduce and establish himself at the club. I don't see a reason why a more confident, established BL couldn't play in the back four and play it well in the future. But I think for now, it's his best role. And I think he got to show his qualities yesterday, obviously, with the goal. It's really well taken and really good movement. I think his physical dominance at the back and he's just popping the ball up at the back was really good. And just him being that spare guy just suited him massively. And I think hopefully we'll start to see his long passing come in as well down the line, if he's the spare guy in the middle as well. So, yeah, I think it suits him for now, but nothing to say he can't play well in a back four in the Premier League. I think in time we'll see that.
Adam?
Yeah, he's in a new league, new environment, and so maybe some familiarity for him would have helped early on if he'd played this role. I mean, not to, again, pat ourselves on the back, but we did say around the Arsenal game when he was fit, he was available for that because he wasn't suspended. We should have gone with the back three for that game and gone more direct. Instead, we went with the back four. We played Joel Piru as the striker. It didn't work. But
we brought on Metra and then went direct at 5-0, and then we were like, "Oh, we're keeping the ball up on the other side of the pitch."
Yeah, it's so funny, isn't it? Anyway, I think we are being a bit self-indulgent, perhaps, but that's fine. But yeah, Biol, he suits the back three, as Dan says, as the centre back because he's better at defending, I'd say, zones and spaces. So he's got that good nose for getting into an area and just booting it out. Rodon's kind of like that, just good at blocking stuff and getting to stuff pretty quickly. He's got that speed to do so as well. But I just think the back three, as much as I have just said earlier in the pod, we can still play a back four, guys. I do think it's probably what we should stick with because I actually think that three at the moment is probably the best part of the team right now. And against Liverpool, I wouldn't be moving that at all. I think you just play, you can maybe move around things in midfield or up front, and it could be a 3-4-3 instead of 3-5-2, depending on strikers' availability. But I would just keep it as it is. And I think Biol really does suit the role. But hopefully after a bit more adaptation with the club, with the league, he might be able to play in a back four. We don't have to always do that. And yeah, I mean, I still think he should be considered the best centre-back at the club in time. And yes, there was obviously his best performance by a mile in a Leeds shirt. So long may that continue. He did look to his best playing in a role that he's played at Udinese and for Slovenia. So not a huge shock.
Yeah, I think he showed some good turn of pace as well that that maybe we haven't quite seen from him.
Yeah, although he was caught out wide, wasn't it? At one point, it was like, oh, bloody hell, in that left centre-back role. And it was like, don't want you there often, but
I think him in the four has been a case of him having to play on the left as well, and not being able to progress it in the same way that Strauch does, which because of him not being left-footed. So I think he'd probably look better in the back four if he was at right centre back in place of Rodon, but obviously Rodon's been really good this year. And Biol, when we signed him, I made a little quick video on YouTube, and I think we did an article on it as well on him. But we highlighted that, Dan did. We highlighted that he's an attacking set piece threat. He's had a season where he's had 3 goals. He's had a season where he's had 4 goals, and he's not a penalty taker. Sort of that's how Strauch gets a lot of his goals from. When it doesn't shock me that again, we've spoken about being direct. We've spoken about trying to make the most of set pieces before. That when we have the players on the pitch who can do that and take advantage of those situations, that we've been quite successful. But yeah, that's my take on it. I think yes. Go on.
I was just going to say, sorry, a slight tangent, just a real quick point. Earlier in the season, people were complaining about Stack on corners, right? Because he's that big lad, and maybe we weren't playing enough of the big lads. But in this game, with so many of them out there, because we had Metra and Calvert-Lewin and the 3 centre-backs, that everyone was like, yeah, Stack's fine on corners, because we've got 5 players that are massive to aim for, and one of them headed it into the goal, and it's not a huge shock, is it?
Yeah. So powerful as well. Like Sanchez gets a decent hand to it and stuff, and still can't stop it.
I don't think he'd stop that now.
No. Anyway, so we've just discussed Biol in some depth. Do either of you have him as your top 3 performers or man of the match? Dan, I'll come to you first. And if you don't have Biol, who do you have?
I've got him in my top 3, but not my top spot. So I think Goodmanson won man of the match.
Ampadu won man of the match on Sky.
So Goodmanson won it with the Leeds vote on Twitter, and
That was it.
Ampadu won it on Sky.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would go. I was happy with Goodmanson. I would say Beal is in there as my top three. My man of the match was Calvert-Lewin. I thought Calvert-Lewin was absolutely immense yesterday. Absolutely ran them ragged. I think we just need to be giving him more praise for the way he's playing at the moment. I think he's tip top. So Calvert-Lewin was my man of the match. Best player on the pitch for me. Full stop.
In Gary Neville's defence, anyone who's listening will have seen me pull an absolutely disgusting face on the fact that I've just said those words. He said that he could have given man of the match to every single player, and he just had to try and pick someone.
Yeah.
He got asked on like 84 minutes, and it took him till 89, and he was like, "I think I've got someone. I'm just gonna go with Ampadu because he's the captain and he's led and he's put in some big challenges."
Yeah.
It was just after he crunched someone
true.
near the left hand side. I think. Yeah,
I reckon someone's in his ear telling him his numbers for like duels or tackles, and he's like, "Yeah, okay, I'll go with him."
Like Gary Neville went really in depth over this crunching tackle by Ampadu because he was like, "It's a block tackle. You don't see many of them these days." He was so happy to have seen it.
So it's quite a dark performance from Leeds, wasn't it? It's quite a dark sort of analyst, isn't he, Gary Neville? So right up his street.
Yeah. Adam, any different for you?
I had Beal in my top three. I was actually between Ampadu and Stack. I think midfield was really key here. I'm not disagreeing with Dan's point about Calvert-Lewin being immense, and maybe the goal maybe just leans towards him a little bit, but I was just so happy with how they mopped things up. Tanaka was good too in midfield, but like those two from a physical point of view just absolutely bossed Chelsea about. There was one for Stack in particular, I won on the watch back that I noticed where like snapped in for a ball, won it. It kind of awkwardly bounced up and he got a bit unlucky because it went to another Chelsea player. He then went straight in on them. The ball then awkwardly bounced and ricocheted to another Chelsea player. I was just like, you're just unlucky there. But it's just the fact that he's getting about like that, and Ampadu was the same. And like, Ampadu was going on an amazing run towards the end as well, like dropping a shoulder and taking it on. So I don't know. I was between those two, but there were a lot of good performers here. Like Bogle's first half, I would probably say he was top 2 or 3 players. But in the second half, the back three were all great. Strauch was brilliant. Rodon was pretty good too. But yeah, Ampadu and Stack for me, I couldn't really split them. That's where I was.
Yeah, I struggled quite a bit with this one because I think I spent a lot of Friday night. I was with a few Leeds fans who went to a gig, and I spent a lot of it slagging off Ampadu. Saying that he's been at errors for quite a few goals.
Yeah, he has.
And that potentially dropping him would be a solution if we had the midfielders to do it. But he's not going to get dropped because he's captain and stuff like that. I didn't notice him. Like I said, I've not rewatched, but I didn't notice him. And I think that's probably good. That it just now felt like he was just doing what I expect of him, I guess. Which probably does put him in that top 3, therefore, because he just put in a performance I'm expecting from him and didn't do what's drawn my attention recently. But yeah, I really like Beal in the game. Probably my number 2, and then yeah, I think Stack, and then probably Ampadu third. Yeah, I thought Stack had a really good game, and the fact that he got through the full game as well, not something that we've seen often from him, or we've got around to like 18. We thought he's looking a bit blowing. I thought Goodmanson just showed energy as well near the end. Like, still had loads of energy before he came off.
I think a few of them were struggling, but he wasn't.
Yeah, he's got such an engine. And just a shout to Okafor, who I thought had a really good game. I know that we've said that he doesn't want to play up front. He said it in interviews that, he doesn't want to be a striker. He doesn't want to have to play off someone, but he pressed from that front when he came on and still did everything that he needed to do.
Nah, he's lazy, mate. I fancy it.
He took down some really good high balls still, was able to kind of create and keep the ball up there. And Perot did as well, did some really nice on-the-ball stuff. He might not have been able to take the ball and challenge with the defenders, but he was secure on the ball for sure. So yeah, I think like it was an all-round performance for me. And picking 3 is difficult, but I'm going to, I'm just going to say Beal because I was really happy that he had a really good game.
Tanaka not even anyone's top 3, even though he scored an absolute beauty.
Yeah, he did also spoon 3 beforehand.
He needed to get his eye in.
To be fair, one came on his left foot and everyone was like, how's he missed that? I was like, it's his left foot. Like, yeah. I know he's a really good technician, but it is his weaker foot. Just one of those. I think that's everything for the review, unless you boys have anything else that you want to add.
Nope.
In that case, enjoy the rest of your evening, boys. Enjoy team fans, who's ever listening. And I shall see you all later.
Thanks, Hosty, mate. Have a good birthday and a good
Thank
trip.
you.
Yeah. See you later. Bye.